Hello everyone, Derek's Damn Toys, and we are back with another video today. Hopefully I'll have this out the day I record it. It may not though, as I'm already like a couple days late on wanting to make this video. I had to finish up the ladder match, which is finally out as of recording. So if you guys wouldn't mind, I'd say after this video, watch that video too. But today we've got like a little story time video. Of course, with the sad news that Bray Wyatt, Windham, Rotunda passed away this past week, along with Terry Funk, I kind of wanted to just hop on here, make a little video, and talk about a fun memory in my life that involves Bray Wyatt, as I never got to like meet him, I never got to take a picture with him. But I remember back in 2015, they had came to my hometown, and when I say they, I mean WWE. They came to my hometown, and my sister had gotten all of us tickets, and I say all of us as in me, her, and my two nephews, and I think my other sister also went as well, but I can't remember if my other sister and my other nephew had like gotten their own tickets or whatever it may be. Not my like business to tell. But I remember being so excited to go that year because one of the few superstars that I got to see live that year was Bray Wyatt. I also got to see Randy Orton and Seth Rollins. I got to see Roman Reigns pre-Tribal Chief era. I got to see a bunch of my favorites who are still currently wrestling today on TV live, you know. And I'm always going to be forever grateful of that. And I'm just so happy that I was able to see Bray Wyatt live that night. He faced Ryback, you know, maybe not the biggest opponent for most people. In fact, some people may laugh at him because, you know, Ryback can be a character on Twitter and YouTube, but it was still a good match. The rest of the matches on the card were fairly good too, you know. I got to see Randy versus Seth, Roman versus Big Show in a steel cage. I want to say I got to also see one half of the Usos, as I think one of them was injured at the time, so he was not able to compete. I got to see a lot of great talent that night, and I've ever since have pretty much gone to every single event since they've come back to my hometown, including the one that happened last year. I actually got to take a picture with Matt Riddle when I went last year, so I was pretty stoked about that. But I think we're veering a little off the topic here, you know. Bray Wyatt, he meant a lot to my childhood growing up, and same thing with Brody Lee, as getting into wrestling, besides like some of the more, I guess you could say like the more established names that were already on TV for a good chunk of years, like John Cena, Randy Orton, Edge. There wasn't too many like smaller names that I could really like attach myself to, as you know, like Sheamus. Yeah, he was up and coming, but I don't really care too much for early years Sheamus as much as I appreciate Sheamus nowadays. And later on, around the time the Shield debuted and when the Wyatt family debuted, I started getting even more into wrestling, as I didn't really start watching wrestling till late 2010. I watched wrestling, my very first episode of Raw was the same night the Nexus debuted, just to give you guys like a good like perspective into how myself watching wrestling has like gone and how it's evolved, because I didn't watch wrestling in the earlier 2000s. I've gone back and I've watched a lot of the older pay-per-views and stuff like that. That's why RVD is a personal favorite of mine, even though I didn't really get to grow up watching him in the WWE. I did watch him in Impact Wrestling or TNA Wrestling, but whatever you want to call it. So when the Wyatt family debuted, you have these like outcasts, and the one dude is just speaking so passionately, so fluently, and he's just cutting great promo after great promo, obviously talking about Bray Wyatt. And he's got these 2 followers behind him who do like his every bidding. It just reminded me of a cult. Of course, that's exactly what it was kind of like supposed to be playing off of. But just the way they did it and the way they executed the Wyatt family, like, it was such a great time for wrestling. It may not have been the best period for wrestling as a whole, but the Wyatt family definitely made it work. And then once they all split up and kind of went their own separate ways, I was a little saddened by it, you know, I can't lie. It was a little weird to see Harper and Rowan battling it out on 2 separate teams, as they were like a part of the Authority and Team Cena and stuff like that around that time, I remember. Of course, only for Survivor Series really though, but they kind of like had small little feuds with each other, and Bray was kind of like off doing his own thing. But then they eventually reunited the Wyatt family. Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton eventually won the tag titles at some point. That was a cool little like spot to see. I don't know, it's just such a sad thing to see that Bray Wyatt isn't here with us anymore. And especially after his return, when he got released, and like the promos he was cutting and the way his character was evolving, I don't know. It's sad to see that we won't get to finish the Uncle Howdy storyline, unless WWE takes a sharp left turn and they decide to continue doing that in honor of Windham. But I don't see it personally happening. And depending on how they're willing to execute it, I would personally hope they don't touch it. Just because I'd rather let Bray Wyatt's memory live on the way it is right now, rather than them possibly even tarnish it in any way, shape, or form. Not that WWE doesn't tell good stories, but there's a reason why, like, certain storylines fall flat. And Bray Wyatt not being there to continue to tell that story, I don't feel like it would have the creative backing that it would if Bray Wyatt were still continuing it. I don't know. I think I've kind of talked long enough about Bray Wyatt. It's almost a 10-minute video, but on that note, you know, tell me your guys' like story on how you like fell in love with the Wyatt family or the Bray Wyatt character. Tell me what you think some of his greatest matches were and stuff like that. Just to give a couple of examples, personally for me, my favorite singles Bray Wyatt match would have to be when him and Daniel Bryan went one-on-one in that strap match at the Royal Rumble while he was in the Fiend character. That was probably one of my favorite matches of all time, just because of how brutal the strap match was and how they used the strap, and just overall was a really great match. If I had to go with the Wyatt family, I know this might be a easy cop-out for a lot of people, but I loved the Wyatt family versus the Shield. That was probably one of my favorite faction rivalries of all time. Just one of my favorite 6-man tag team matches of all time. But even then, another great match just to at least list off one more, would have to be when he won the Elimination Chamber and won the WWE Championship. Did I just put an extra W in that, or I don't know, but you know exactly what I mean. Like, he's got a lot of great moments, a lot of great promos. And for those of you who may not have been too big of a fan, all I can say is go check out some of his work, because I will forever be touched by this man's work. He's inspired many a people for generations to come, and I hope that shines more and more throughout TV as wrestling starts to evolve. But on that note, like the video if you like the video, subscribe for future content including pick-fed wrestling content and action figure reviews. I may start integrating other action figures, but I don't know, I kinda dig only having this being a wrestling channel. But if I really feel the need to, we might do some anime reviews and stuff like that. After all, I've got quite a bit of anime shit. Anyway, on that note, I'm gonna get out of here. Follow me on any of my social medias if you want to. The links are in the description below. And I am going to be getting out of here. Peace out, y'all.